Good evening and welcome to the I Trained You show. I'm Coach Brandon Adams for another week on how do we get better? How do we take our dreams and set up a plan so that we can get from where we are to where we want to be? And so I'm a former basketball player. I played for the University of Miami many, many years ago. And after that experience, I decided I wanted to dedicate my life to the science of improving. And so there's several factors that kind of take place. Number one, there's got to be skill development. That's number one. But number two, you have to be a leader because it's hard for you to just kind of get out there and do. There are some people that might be 7'5" and they can just be out there. But for the common height type of person, you've got to build not only your athleticism, but you've got to build your leadership. And so this show is talking a little bit about the journey that players take and how they get from where they are to where they want to be and kind of maybe what stops them from going farther. And so as we've had COVID and all the other things that have kind of gotten in the way of life and basketball, eventually when the ball stops bouncing, what do we do? And so in my case, I've decided to become a trainer, a coach, and as many mentoring types of opportunities as I could possibly put myself in to stay close to the game, even as far off as the last time that I laced up my shoes. And with that, there are things that I've learned and observed that would have made me a better basketball player. How that would have happened, what I could have done differently, my perception of myself, and then my perception of how other people felt about me. All of those things encompass how far we get as a player. And ultimately, if you want to get to these new levels, you have to listen to others. So what we do is we kind of set up a curriculum base for you. And then once that curriculum is starting to be mastered physically, you also have to have your physical like strength and conditioning right. But then we look at the intellectual side. So we have what's called virtual IQ. And then we deal with the emotional side. And that's actually a lot of leadership as well. And so we have leadership 24. So the way we approach the game is slightly different in terms of how we improve because we recognize that the difference between one player and the next is not necessarily the difference between the bottom of their feet and the top of their head in terms of height, but it's actually what's between their ears and how they approach life. And so we have a special guest on the show. Of course, we have Coach Nysear on, and Coach Brad Pinchback is not going to be with us tonight. Coach Akil actually may join us a little bit later because he's out there training on the court. But then we have Tara Cousins, and Tara is a phenomenal young lady who plays basketball. I had a chance to meet her when she was probably in 8th or 9th grade, and we started working together and went on a journey together. And so we can say that Tara is one of the best players that I've seen play. Her shooting, her ball handling, all the things that encompass a great player, Tara has it. And so what that means for her is this is her last year at the University of Delaware. So does she just stop or does she continue to journey? Because if we remember the creed is become a subject matter expert, be the best version of yourself, and surround yourself with people who inspire you. If you do those things, then you pretty much have a chance to do anything in life. And so that's our family creed here at the Adams household. And that's the creed that I invite all of our players to take on and hopefully you as a community. So without further ado, we're going to introduce Coach Nysear. Let's see if he's out here. Let's see. Coach, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So I know you're having some technical difficulties, but if you can get on so the community gets a chance to see you, that'd be great. But Coach, introduce yourself again as we do every week and tell the world a little bit about who you are and why you participate with I Trained You and what you do with I Trained You and as many more as you want to talk about.
Well, I'm Nysear Byrd. I'm a math teacher at Berry School. I coach at Berry School, middle school basketball, girls and boys. I got in I Trained You a little bit over a year ago. I grew fond of Brandon's kids, um, Brandon Jr. and Barron. And so Brandon had already told me about his program. But he told me that, well, not he told me, but the boys started getting serious with basketball again. And I was just getting into really wanting to coach and maybe even potentially train when it comes to basketball, because I wanted to help the boys at Barry get better. So little before you know it, me and Brandon get talking. He tells me his philosophy. I think it's like something I never heard before. I think it's different from anything I've ever heard about. Um, and I was like, I want to take this journey. So, I mean, in every aspect, I think I've helped Brandon with ideas about the brand and the company, um, and basically just help the boys get better. I'm all about kids and helping them be better. So as a teacher, I feel like having that having a special connection with kids, it might give me an advantage in helping them to get better. And that's basically why I'm here.
All right. Well, great story. And thank you for all the work you're doing for everybody else's kids, but especially mine. So, the show is about um, getting better at basketball. And so it's been so long since I've been a player that, um, you know, even when I'm successful, when I play pickup at 54, I'm surprised that I'm hard to guard sometimes, right? Like even with a bad back, I can't even believe that I score.
Mhm.
But the reality is that where I am on the floor, my position, my experience going through it, being able to read the floor, the game slows down with the more skill sets you get. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited that Tara is on the call is because um, Tara sees the floor differently. And when we first met, I didn't really recall whether or not I thought she was a vocal communicator and, was really expressing herself, Nysear. And what ended up happening is it was like a shift. And she did things that were just incredible. I mean, she has a big sister in the program, Kyla Charles, who's, really an incredible player in her own right. And I love the way that Tara took that on and said that, I'm going to keep my bar as high as I possibly can take it. And I'm not sure that, Tara was, you know, she was always a hard worker. I could tell that, but I'm not sure with the coaching that she had in her life at the time that I met her. Um, like her story is just incredible. So let me just bring her on and let's start there. Our cousin.
Hi.
How you doing, young lady?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Have you met Nysear before?
I think so. I
All right.
think so.
Nysear, Tara, Nysear.
Yep. Nice to meet you again. I think I met you
Nice to meet you too.
at the
So,
barbecue.
Tara, let's talk a little bit about the beginning of your journey and forget why you chose I Trained You and all the rest of the stuff. I mean, you could share whatever you want about that. But, let's talk about the fact that you had a dream and you were playing soccer at the time as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about because all of these kids want to be D1, right? And you didn't play on Takeover when I first met you. You didn't play on those high. You were playing for I think Georgetown Lady Panthers or
Mhm.
Germantown Lady Panthers, and they put out products, but I don't know if that was like the best AAU program in the area. That's like, okay, I'm gonna be a D1 player and all the rest of the stuff. And so I want to dive into your journey because it's such a beautiful story, and I'm so happy where you are. But you know what we're going to talk about at some point. You already know.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to put it on me the whole time and not on you because I don't want
Okay.
your head coach to think there's anything different. You are right where you're supposed to be. But go ahead and start with your journey. Let me just listen
Oh
and
my goodness. Okay. So yeah, I was playing soccer up until I stopped my freshman year of high school, and I thought I wanted to play soccer in college, actually. Before that, I think after I stopped playing soccer was when I decided, like, I actually want to put all my energy into becoming a Division I basketball player. And yeah, I had Germantown Lady Panthers. It wasn't necessarily that it was the best program or anything like that in the area. It was just what was accessible to me, and I kind of like when I was younger, I didn't really know what sport I wanted to take seriously, if any sport, seriously enough to play it in college at all. So I was kind of just doing what made me happy. And I think that, like my dad, who was a big influence on my sports in the best way possible,
Great person. Both.
he kind of was like, okay, like maybe, really got to consider the choices you want to make. So I played for GLP just because it was people I knew and it was accessible to me. And yeah, so eventually once I started training with you and realized, like, okay, I had to take this to a different level to want to be a Division I athlete. I was getting maybe low D1 offers, and then it really, like, I got up to better, like, mid-major schools once I started training with you and taking those steps to, like, really commit, like after school, whatever it was, come to training, take the metro to practice, or like anything like that. So yeah, I was honestly probably a bit of a late bloomer in the basketball world, and at least the very large commitment to the EYBL teams, to the highest level programs. I didn't really know that those existed until I was, or the gravity of being on one of those programs until I was in high school, which it sounds early, but it's not in the basketball recruiting world. Like that, people are starting to build those connections in middle school, sometimes even earlier. It's insane. So I was definitely a late bloomer, but training with you, I think, is what kind of made up for those years that I was still, playing soccer or trying to figure out what I wanted to do, or not really taking necessarily one sport as more seriously than the other.
You know, what's the difference between an educator like what I do?
Okay.
And I'm not going to say trainer, because obviously to me, a trainer works you out, you get a good sweat, but you really can't link the skill sets to the application portion of saying that this is now part of my game. It's very difficult.
Mhm.
But if you have an educator who's kind of giving you those things, giving you the tests, and we could say I was kind of like your handler too, right? Because I was involved with your recruiting, where you went to high school, just the whole thing, your college decision, all the rest of that stuff. Um, but let's talk about the difference between a trainer slash educator and a coach. What do you see as like the biggest difference? Because a lot of parents, to me, they have a coach, and so then they're like, oh, I don't want to invest in a trainer, or whatever else, because my coach should be doing, or my kid's coach should be doing all of those things. What are your thoughts?
I mean, a coach, when I think about that word alone, I think about kind of the manager or like the administrator of a team, right? A collective group. So I can have an AAU coach, and they might be managing that program that's so many kids. You have like 15U, 16U, whatever it is. So that's administrator, and that's not to knock any coach's knowledge. There's coaches are so knowledgeable in the game, but it's more in the team environment, right? So everybody takes the steps, right? They might start out as a trainer and become a coach, but once you have that mindset, you have to focus on managing your entire team. And you don't have as much time to, work out one player and focus on their skill sets and tell them how they need to apply these skill sets or how they need to develop these skill sets or anything like that. So, and then when I think of an educator, well, I'll go down to a trainer first. I would say the difference between an educator and a trainer, right? So I would describe you as an educator, because a trainer to me is like someone who's going to put you through drills. They're going to put you through cone drills. They're going to, make you do 100 pounds. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody needs to start somewhere. And those are absolutely fundamentals that everybody should have. But I don't know that there's another step up, which is the educator that you're talking about. So someone who can break down the game, right? So who can break down and really make a class, essentially, a course in how to apply these skill sets, why you're applying these skill sets, how to read the floor so that you understand when to apply those skill sets. Like, that's a big difference, and that sets players apart, because so many young kids who are playing on the EYBL circuit early, they're usually going to be the most athletic kid, the biggest kid who had the growth spurt earliest, whatever it is. But if you stop at those cone drills and you're not going to develop your game in your education and developing your education of the game, you're going to at some point hit your ceiling. But if you have someone who educates you in the game, then you're able to think and read and feel the game in a different way, rather than just, okay, well, I've done this move 100 times at a cone,
Yeah.
so let me just try it out and see if it works. But that's so different from someone who can say, oh, okay, I know my pro slots and I
Right.
know my 1-3-5-4-2 when I'm reading the floor, and I know if
True.
this person pulls over and help, then that person is going to be open, and then there's going to be a one more because the defense is going to have to shift this way, right? Like, that sets people apart, and that sets the people who are successful in their colleges. When you get to the college level, when everybody on your team was the best person on their high school team, the best person on their EYBL team, whatever it is, when you get there, like, that's what's going to set you apart, because everybody can do those cone drills once you get to that high level. So
Sure. So no, like you said some great things, and I love the fact that you just showed that your parents' investment was worth it. Dropping that knowledge right there about 1-3-5-4-2 pro slots. There's a lot of YouTubers and Instagrammers and TikToks, and they're just showing drills, and it's like, oh, okay, I can get out here. I don't need a trainer. I can just go ahead and do these drills. And the reality is that they're not able to get better because most kids don't understand how to manage the pressure and the proximity. Like, that if I were to say, what are the 3 dribbles in basketball? You're not going to say behind the back, between the legs, and crossover. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, you have to use a skill within there. And I think it's hard because parents don't know who to choose as a trainer, right? And so they deal with who's closest and most convenient. They deal with cost, right, which is really important. And then I feel like they deal with some other factors that we don't know about. Like, there's some preconceived notions. And so, like, one kid the other day, he was like, well, where did you play? Like, you know, name drop in Miami is good and all, but I didn't even want it to go there, right? Because I could have gone to, I don't even know if this is school, Ypsilanti U, and if I had this curriculum and education, it would be just as good as me playing for Miami. You know what I mean? So it wasn't Miami that taught me this, it was my total experience. Then I learned some experiential leadership training. And so right after college, which helped me with my early childhood development and also primary education development with children, to help them to learn how to process skill sets. But one of the things that I also did, and I don't even know if you know this, is that I became a martial artist right after college. And I never got to the MMA. You didn't know about all this, but I never got to Nysear. You didn't know about this. Okay. You just know about the boxing. Okay. But this is why I can handle boxing. All right. So one of the things that I found, there was a guy named Timmy. This is just a flat out, just a true story. I know I'm full of stories, but it's a true story. So Timmy is this little guy. He's like 5'7". And I walk in and I'm 6'6". And so they say, Timmy's your instructor. And you've called me all sorts of crazy stuff, Tara, right? But you could have seen me back then, because I'm looking at this little man and I'm saying I'm about to throw him all around the dojo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he was slight of build. And so I'm not saying that I was rude, but I needed a lesson on, you don't know where people come from and what they've been through. And so, and Timmy, if anybody could ever find him, he's about 5'7". He's a really athletic 5'7", but and he's about 140 pounds at best. So we're trying to engage in the sparring. And I'm like, dude, like, I really, no disrespect, I will grab you and I would throw you across the room if I was in a fight. Like, that's the way I felt. And we stood right next to each other. And before I could really finish my thought, he did a kick and it went above my head and landed. But when he landed in this move where I didn't see him anymore. And he was down in this crouch stance. And I just realized right then it was so fast and it was so quick. There's nothing that I would have been able to do or understand. And it taught me a lot about proximity, number one. And so what he said is that, you know, number one, you don't hit first and you manage your distance from people. And so he started teaching me right away. And I said, man, if I would have known this with basketball and train like this, because he said, you have to think Kung Fu. It was just really crazy. So I said, man, what if I thought basketball? So everywhere I am, if I'm at the mall or if I'm at a dinner somewhere at a restaurant, and I just think basketball. And so when you're, you know, standing next to someone, you got to imagine them potentially striking you and how you would handle that. And you got to think like this at all times so that you're always ready. So I started doing that with basketball. When I would be standing next to anybody, whatever, I'm thinking they're going to take the ball from me and it's imaginary basketball and making the movements and all the rest of the stuff. And it was weird because I became almost like instantly better because I started handling proximity much different. And so for a lot of these kids that are out here, and I'm not calling you a kid because you're still in your development process if you want to go pro, but you being able to handle the pressure of a defender and stay calm is critical to the success of any athlete. But in order to get to that space, you have to be like Timmy and be so skillful that you have the confidence and you're prepared for war in times of peace. What do you think about that, Tara? Now, see, I'm not saying that you can't address this, but because she is the player that she is, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I think it's applicable to everything. We just had our first official, like by NCAA rules, practice. So like we've been having off season workouts before this. That could be like an hour and a half. We've just had our first 2.5 hour practice today, like practice uniforms, everything, and we went live for a few drills, not even that much, but just a few drills. And I mean, everything you're saying is coming back to me because I'm replaying practice when we had turnovers and we had bad possessions or got a bad shot or anything. And it's just like, a lot of them are because people aren't understanding that proximity, or they're not really thinking the game, right? They're just out there playing and they're not thinking, like the one step ahead. They're not thinking my defender is within this proximity. They're in, this gap, whatever it is. They're just doing, essentially a cone drill, right? But it's live now, so it's different. And we had some bad turnovers today, and our coach is getting on us about it. And I just think that, I'm a fifth year, so I've had certain experience. My team is pretty young, so sometimes, and this is no knock to my teammates, I love them so much, and they have like all the potential in the world, but and they are skillful and in their own rights, but I just know that like I've trained my brain to think a different way, and obviously none of them is trained with you. So
not yet.
Right. And so, like I'll get frustrated and I'll be like, why are you, why are you taking that shot, or why are you driving that lane? Like someone you're just driving right on top of someone, or like the proximity, that gap isn't gonna be open, whatever it is. And it's just like, there's the gaps in that understanding the game on that level. And people become used to relying on their athleticism, their height, their strength, whatever it is. But in college is different. That's not enough. That's not enough. And you have to have that skill set and that understanding of the game that will set you apart, that understanding of the proximity that will set you apart. Because everybody can go out there and do some moves like they're doing on a cone, but it's not going to get you anywhere unless you understand how your defender is going to move and how the defense is going to shift and read the help and everything like that.
Kind of like think kung fu, right? You gotta
Yes.
think in this way, and that kind of goes with everything in life, right? So you already know the creed of be a subject matter expert, be the best version of yourself, and surround yourself with people who inspire you. You know, getting on the same page, and I think that sometimes parents are not on the same page. One of the things that stands out about your father, he said, look, Brandon, you're going to meet my daughter, and this can go a lot of different ways. She takes a long time to process, and it's in that processing that she's evaluating because she's super smart. I had no idea that you were smarter than me at 15. Like, it was awesome. Nysear, it was crazy. She was smarter than me. I'd say, 2 times 2 is 4, and she'd say, no, it's not. It's approaching 4. It was just amazing.
It's approaching 4.
It's approaching.
I've never said that in my life, by the way. I've never said that.
Correctly. As usual, she is smart enough to correct that. So, but I'm going to tell you, aptitude is so important. A lot of these kids think that they just want to go out there and they just need to play. And you've got to get to a point where you're confident enough in yourself that you'll either overcome, but you have to have the aptitude to manage all these things. You don't go to war and just get out there like you've been shooting the gun at the range. Like, you really got to think through strategy and to make sure that you're making adjustments, and reading off of those adjustments is important. What do you think, Tara, the biggest difference between high school and college is in terms of your preparation to be as competitive as you are?
Oh, goodness. I mean,
See, I already know the answer.
do you? For me,
I was there.
I think that I mean, you just have to be able to adjust better. Like, you have the way my coach puts it, in college, like, every single game you play, their coaches and the players have watched film on you. They know your tendencies. They know the moves you want to go to. They know how they have a scheme on how to guard you, right? Like, we get scouting reports, like 5-page scouting reports, and it's our job to know that front to back. We get quizzed before games about the scouting report. And so in college, how my coach puts it, it's multiple people's job, right? Like, it's the athlete's job and the entire coaching staff's job to learn how to stop you. In high school, yeah, okay, you can say, like, okay, it's the high school coach's job, whatever it is, but, like, no one's unless you're like, at the top prep school in the country or something like that. Like, no one's watching hours of film. No one's putting together an entire scouting report on
Right.
how to stop you and how to guard you and what they're going to do every time you come off a screen. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to think and adjust on the fly to go to a secondary move when someone takes away the primary one that they know you want to go to. You have to have an adaptable skill set and also be so mentally tough as well.
There you
Like,
go.
like, when you in high school, for most of the time, the game, I'm not thinking. I'm not, and before game, I'm not thinking about a scouting report or anything like that. Maybe they have a top recruit or whatever. But I'm going to go out there, I'm going to run plays, and I'm going to show out so I can get recruited. College, that's all done for, right? Like, everybody's already showed out, everybody's already been recruited, everybody's there for a reason. So you have to push through that boundary that you probably thought was your ceiling in high school, to be able to continue to improve. So many people, I think, get to college and then they're like, all right, I'm here, I made it, I'm good, I'm done, like, I can just exist how I am. When it's 20, 25 people's job to take you out the game every night, you're going to have to adapt, and you're going to have to deal with the games where they do succeed on the scouting report. But you know what? You're going to have the confidence and the ability to go back in the gym and say, all right, that's not going to be enough next game. And it's so hard, especially because you have a coach whose job it is to succeed with you, right? You're there for a reason. They're spending money on you, so you got to perform. You have the pressure to perform, but then you also have to stay confident at the same time and give yourself affirmations and give yourself, like not lose sight of why you are there, but
But
also know that you have to grow while you in the process. So,
so that last word that you said, confidence,
mm,
that's something that you really had to develop, you personally
mhm.
had to develop, because sometimes you didn't want to accept that you were just better than everybody on the court. And I told you your senior year, you'll go as far as you decide your team is going to go when we move from one high school to the next. Do you remember that?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I don't think you understood it then, but I think you understood it or understand it now.
Mhm.
Like your mental preparation, it almost has to be dominant, like at all times.
No, it does. Yeah.
Every player is trying to take you out. Even on the high school level, they're trying to show and prove. You're selling yourself. And you have to say, okay, these are my skill sets and this is what it's worth. And those other kids, and you're trying to stop and say, no, whatever you're selling is no good. What I'm selling is better. And that's how kids get recruited or get picked on teams and all the rest of that stuff. So if you're not with an educator for your development, then you're going to be very frustrated unless there's some external factors that's going on within the home that's really pushing you to become a better basketball player or to apply those skills. And I think that's what's so, like, parents don't necessarily understand. They may not be equipped. I mean, I have 4 kids. It's hard to multitask all the kids, give them a high sense of purpose for a particular goal. Like, all right, do you want to be a professional basketball player? Let's go for it and use basketball as an example of how you're going to take on life with whatever job you end up with. So let's go out there and let's learn everything we possibly can about being a basketball player. Like, you may be a doctor one day. So you're going to learn everything there is to know about the body so that you're completely prepared for like that next level of intensity that might present itself because you've been in complicated situations and come out successful in basketball. That training ground is what every educator, trainer, coach should be doing with these kids, is helping them to prepare for life. Do you find that when you reflect on some of your colleagues or friends that had different educators slash trainers than me, do you think that they were getting the same education you were?
In terms of basketball,
Yeah.
or like in terms of life? Okay. I mean, no, for sure. No. I mean, I know college players now that like they have gaps in their knowledge, and you would think that certain things are essential, but there's so many people who don't have those things. They've just relied on, certain physical advantages or just, like fundamentals that they have, and that's fine. Like, but I can definitely tell, like, there's levels, right? That's another thing one of my coaches always says, like, there's levels to this.
Yeah.
So once you get to college, like, you're gonna learn quickly that a lot of people actually don't have the education that it almost surprised me.
Yeah.
I
No,
would
for
say,
sure.
like, say it again.
No, for sure. I mean, it is surprising because, and I've worked with, you know, like the highest level of major programs,
Hmm.
and they don't have the time to fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
You just don't. So you either have to find it on your own, or it's trial and error, or you got to have somebody that's going to spend the time with you. And I don't, and I'm, obviously resources, financial resources are important, and having a strategy and a plan is important. I went to part of my high school. I was at a JROTC, and that was at St. John's High School. And one of the key things that I remember is strategy. Like when you're getting ready to enter a war or a battle, you have to have a plan. And so that plan doesn't just say, okay, this is what we're going to do on the battlefield. The plan actually starts with preparing way before the battle starts. So how do you train your troops to get ready to go out? Like what kind of environment are you going to be in? You're going to be in the jungle. You're going to be in a dry area. You're going to be in a high altitude. You know, all of those things are important. So the prep in terms of the strategy is just as important. Now the troops are ready. Now let's go to war. Does that kind of make sense? So in basketball, for your teammates, for other college players, for parents that are looking, you've got to say, okay, what kind of environment is my son or my daughter in? Because at the end of the day, you have to be the best player on the team. There's over 1 million kids playing high school basketball that may be trying to go to college. With the portal and with all the rest of the stuff, it is very difficult to make that transition and be seen and excel. You can't just say, oh, I want it so bad. You got to get out there and you got to produce and perform. And so it doesn't matter what school it was, but there was an opportunity for you to go to a different school. And so you needed to be ready emotionally to perform in one game. And it made a big decision, or it was a final decision on whether or not you would have gotten a scholarship offer from that school. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what's interesting is I take responsibility for not preparing you. And you know I do. We've talked about that a little bit before. I mean, you may disagree with it and it's on you and all the rest of the stuff, but I was the one that was influenced. Remember, you surround the people who inspire you and influence you. I was your influencer. I was your handler. And so I wanted you to be prepared for every game to go to whatever school you thought was best for you. And so just to have that offer as an opportunity, I wanted that for you because I think that would have been great. And obviously, I thought you could have played there and performed the same way you are here. And so there's no love loss for the fact that you didn't go. It just was a part of your development at that particular time. And so as a mentor or trainer or educator or coach for you, your emotional peace and readiness, that's so important because all of that noise that hit you that afternoon created some tension and some drama within, right?
Yeah.
And did things that you normally wouldn't have done. And that's what I'm saying. Parents have got to understand that the preparation for that, and look, because we're not going to name the school, but at the end of the day, that was a dream offer to get.
Yeah.
So my point is that the fact that you had done the preparation just to get to that point, man, I mean, God bless. I mean, you're a better player than I ever was. So
Yeah.
hold on. So what I want to do is, because you and I can go through this, and I love what we're doing. I want Nysear to be able to ask you some questions because he doesn't know you as well. And so to Nysear, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I want you to ask Tara some questions from either a coaching perspective or to say, okay, here's a real live Division I basketball player, in the thick of it. Ask her what you need to know as a coach or as a trainer that's developing players, and some of the things that you think would be good for you to understand more about the process.
What do you think? What do you think is needed from a trainer for you to really fulfill what they're trying to instill in you? Like, what characteristics or traits would a trainer need to really, I don't know, I don't want to say sweep you from under your feet, but really help you get to that next level?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, the question that we've been talking about all night is to be able to, or actually I'll phrase it differently than how we've been talking about it. I think it's really important for a trainer to be able to explain why for everything. So maybe that's a personal thing because I'm a very I'm a processor, and I like to understand how and why things work. And so, but I think that it's it would be positive for everybody. Even if there are people who aren't necessarily like me and they just like to go out there and just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. I think there still is value for everyone in understanding why they're doing something. So why you should do this move this way, why you should read the floor this way, like why you should only use this move when this happens. Because if you understand that why, then it's going to make you that cerebral player, right? That has the potential to take those next steps to be successful in the higher levels. So from high school to college to pro, possibly. So, like, because for sure at the pro level, everybody's cerebral, right? And the people who aren't cerebral or they can't apply those skill sets, they're not playing. So I think being able to give someone the why for everything you're doing, even if it's literally just the way they do a certain crossover or anything like that. I think to me, if I can see that someone can offer me that, then I trust their knowledge, right? I'm not just going based off of like, oh, what school did you go to, right? Like that the clout behind anybody's school or anything like that. Like, yes, of course, it's gonna matter to certain people because there's so much politics in basketball, but having that knowledge will inevitably set you apart, I think, and will really help any kids that you do train. I think that would be the number one thing for me.
So Tara, you know what virtual IQ is, and so in this call, did you want to do Kyrie, Nysear?
Yeah, Kyrie is fine.
So, this is why are you smiling? So
what are you gonna ask me to break something down? What is it?
no, you're going to be a part of it, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. Hopefully, we'll be able to see it clearly enough. But let me see if I'm doing this right. There we go. So, did that make it a little larger? Yeah. So a lot of times when players are looking at games, they're just fans. They're not actually analyzing the good, the bad, and the ugly of a game. And so I just want to take like a few moments with you and with Coach, and we're going to analyze and try to see what Kyrie sees on the floor, because we're always going to talk positive. We can, I'd love for you, if you don't mind, can we have you back on and break your game down and do a Vic on you? Oh,
yeah, sure. I have to find one of my best games on film.
Best games, right? No, I'm talking about the first game of the season this year. Let's start there, so we can ensure the success. But seriously, like one of the things that we talk about is number 7 right here is in what's called the active zone, and he's at a complete disadvantage because he's going to be requiring, a step slide, and Kyrie can negotiate space. And by him negotiating the space and being able to read, because he's protecting the ball with his skill, not with his eyes. Would we agree with that? So what's going to have to happen is Kyrie has what we would call a diamond, because in between these two guys, these interior defenders that are in the help position, they're more than 12 feet apart. So it allows Kyrie, because obviously, you got Luke over here who's a heck of a shooter, and he can't go too far away from Luka. And so now if he decides that he's just going to forcibly really attack the inside shoulder of number 7, number 7 is going to be in a bad situation because he's going to be in a position of recovery. And if Kyrie gets the advantage and gets a foothold in front of him, then Kyrie, is now playing 5-on-4 basically, because his defender is desperately trying to catch up. So we state all of this, in advance, because we want you to be able to see, and this is for you, Tar, right? So we want you to be able to see what Kyrie should be seeing. And his finishes are spectacular, but they're also acrobatic. And that can't be expected from everybody in terms of, how he's able to finish so well at the rim. But let's just take a look at this. So now he backs off. Kyrie's reading the floor, And Nysear, what is the first thing you notice that Kyrie is doing?
At a wing test.
Yep, but his shoulders,
Oh, he got his shoulders below the defenders.
got his shoulders below the defenders. And so, Tar, that puts the defender at a disadvantage. And you can't get so low that you're below your own equilibrium to be able to balance yourself. But you've got to try and work at getting low enough, not just to protect the ball, but the attack on the inside shoulder or the hip of the defender then becomes really complicated for the defender to manage. So I put it in slow motion. And what did you notice there on that move? He actually did what? Did you see what he did, Tar?
Didn't play one more time for me. He pharaohed.
He did a pharaoh. So it looked like he potentially could shoot. That created brain freeze because now he's in the neurorefractory period of the defender. And so now that confirmation gives him a second to be able to attack. And so Kyrie might do 4, 5, 6 different counters or combinations before he attacks the basket. But now the defender is trying to recover off of the mistake of him reading the potential for the shot. And then Kyrie, while he's in this position of recovery, he sees that he's in the run defense, trying to get back and protect the defensive protection line. And he's able to shoot and get to the top of his jump because he realizes that when the defender's hands are down, then there's no way he's going to be able to contest a shot. And look how he's shooting at the top of his jump. I mean, it's I'm not going to say it's rocket science, but it's scientific. So you got a couple of things happening on this play. Nysear, what's the first thing you see?
Triangle.
Diamond, because there's a young man in the middle right here. And so
Yeah, I see.
you see it, right? Tara, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that these guys are blocking his ability to potentially get an easy layup unless the guy in the middle, really goes out and recovers. But this area right by the dots is going to be his target area. It would have to be. But the question is, does he go to the left or does he go to the right? So what Kyrie has to read is the defender going to step even higher because now the right foot of the defender is exposed if Kyrie gets his shoulders down and attacks that leg. Or Kyrie could say if his leg doesn't come all the way up, that he's going to attack that top foot and come around to the nail right here in the middle of the free throw line and try to make his attack because these other defenders are just too far away. So you've got to make this isolated read. So the defender is up, and so Kyrie is making his decision. He's got in the axe triple threat where the ball is on his left hip, and he's testing the defense. And what did he do there? He confirmed for the defender that he might be attacking the middle, right there. And so now the defender goes for that, and it allows the crossover and a new top foot. And so now the defense is in a passive zone. Did you see that, Tar?
Yeah.
So again, all of this stuff, this acceleration, everything that he's doing, like that's a great finish. We call that PS2 in our program. But let's go back to this. So, Tar, do you know the rule of fifths?
I think so, but tell me one more time so I can make sure.
So tell her what the rule of fifths is, Nysear.
So the court is cut up into 5 sections, starting from the perimeter inside. So let's say one was from about the top of the key to like halfway, or maybe more than halfway in between the I guess I'll call it the bumper or the free throw line.
Yeah, so you got the 3-point line, and let's just make it easy, like 4 feet in, all the way around the perimeter, like a rainbow or
Mhm.
a smaller arc.
Okay.
That would be the first, and then you would do it again 4 feet in, and that would be
Mhm.
second. So in this situation here, like where the red is at the top of the key, that would be all that area there is the first. And so when you're trying to build your momentum up, you have to build it in this area when you're attacking from the wing, because you want the defense to convert to the run defense where they swivel their hips. So they're trying to run to get in front of you. And if they don't do it, then it will allow you to continue to drive to the basket. And if they do it, it's going to allow you to reverse your momentum and potentially create a redrive. So in this scenario, he attacks and he's going full speed. He's got the guy in the run defense like he wants. So now he's going from the first to the second and he's in the third. He sees the help coming over. And so at this particular point, he's got what we call a paint touch. And so you got 5 players, defenders, that are all looking at the ball. So Kyrie doesn't necessarily look to pass. He feels like he's the best option. But as I develop our players, I'm looking for them to make strong kickouts. So if he sees that, he's in this drive and he's got the help, he's got to be willing to trust his teammates and know the quality of the personnel, but also his teammates should be looking for the blind spot. So like number 42 should be drifting baseline. Number 25 should be drifting to the first hash above the block, because now you're going behind your primary defenders and they get lost trying to find the help and also their man. So now he gets here, he kind of fumbles it a little bit, but he's able to get into the shot because he knows that you have to follow the rule of execution. And the rule of execution is that you have to, on drives and layups, you have to jump outside of the lane or you have to jump in front of the first hash above the block because these guys are super athletic. So you see him following these rules. And if you don't do that, then you have to actually finish with what we call the rule of the median, where you actually, go to the other side of the basket. So let's see what happens here. So he goes out of the lane. The young man is in the bumper with him. And Kyrie's like, okay, I can drive off of this. Oh my gosh. But this is
Well,
Kyrie.
that's insane.
Yeah. And this is a highlight. So we should just break down the good and the badness here, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So again, there he is. He's entering the first, driving in the first. And so what he does in our program, Tara, do you remember what that's called? What he does?
Kobe style.
Exactly.
But he's getting to his kill spot because he could have probably you could have said like he could have technically split them, but
Yeah.
he knows he has a 7-footer on him. If he can get to his kill spot, a 7-footer can't do anything.
So what would you also add to that, Nysear?
Play it again. So because he had the triangle, he knew that defenders couldn't really close in. So he could have just taken the middle lane, but he decided to go outside for some reason.
Sure. So, yep. So he decided to go to the weak side of the triangle in this case, and it didn't work out so perfectly the way he wanted to. So, in his mind, the highest probability of success was to not test the defensive protection line of number 40, the 7-footer. So, he actually steps away from the defensive protection line so that he can get neutral or passive in this situation to be able to get his shot off. Notice how the ball goes above the top of the backboard, and it's not a problem for him. So that DPL is so important, guys. The DPL is so important. So we look through here. Again, he's in the first. He's now driving in the second. He had a triangle because number 40 and whoever this guy is on the right side are more than 12 feet apart. So then we would say he had a diamond because that's Brunson there or whoever that is. And look where he jumps from. He's jumping from outside the lane. And so he followed all the rules perfectly. Dude is two bumpers out in the active zone. Look, saw what he just did there? Created an arm bar, still chopping. Do you see all that, Tar?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not an accident. He does this all the time. He dribbles, his pickup dribble is in the second, right? And following the rule of fifths. So now he's going all the way through. Now, in this case, he is now in the execution area when he jumps. So what's the rule, Tar? Do you know?
He's in the execution area when he jumps. No, I do not. What, is he not to finish with a power charge, do you mean?
Exactly. You do know. You know. So he's got to confirm one kind of finish and then do something different, which is exactly what
That's insane.
That was pretty good on Tara. One in this here. She got that
Yeah.
one. We're proud of you. We're proud of you. So we'll do a couple of more. Look, everybody's impressed, but he's not, because he's prepared. And he's a doctor. He's a scientist. So he gets the guy to convert. He's attacking the triangle, or in this case, the diamond. And so he comes, what's that finish called, Nysear?
Let me say it again. Yes.
PS2. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yep. Like, this is just not an accident. And he's shooting the ball high enough up. And if you notice, he did not jump in the lane following the execution principles. He was kind of in the lane, but he still finished properly. All right. Now he's on this right wing. And so what do you see, Tar? Where's his opportunity? Dude is in the bumper at the active zone. Where's the opportunity?
His opportunity?
Yeah. Is it baseline? Is it across the middle on a cross layup? What would you do in this case?
If he can confirm somehow, maybe with some type of jab step, to get his defender to jump more to his left side, then he can go middle, especially considering that he has Luka guarded by Harden right there. So Luka's gonna have that gravity, right? Like, Harden cannot help off of Luka so much so that he's gonna get right in front of Kyrie. So if Kyrie confirms his defender to jump more to the left, right, or open his hips more, however you want to say it, he can drive middle. And then you got PG and Zubac, right? They're already looking at Kyrie, right? You got two shooters on the backside. They're already ready. So you get one of them to commit, then they're already in a scramble. You got to kick out. He's probably going to finish it, of course, because he's a freaking wizard. But that's, what someone who doesn't have the finishes of Kyrie can see.
So look how the double team. So he sees that double team is there. I thought he was going to take the baseline. He took the hip out. His shoulders were lower. He attacked and angled into the defender. It looks like he's doing a vertical lift, doesn't it, Nysear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now he may end up saying, I don't want to test the DPL, but he's good enough that he should be able to split through the both of these. I mean, like, look, you can't yell at Kyrie, but number 8 is just wide open. Like, that would be a beautiful kick if he can get there. But again, we saw this in an earlier clip where, he doesn't test the DPL and he Kobe styles away from it. You've got to train like this and get up 65, 70% and better. We're going to do one more because we're going to close it out. But this, hopefully for parents, will understand that this is not an accident what he's doing. So even in this conversion, all he's doing is saying, I'm not testing the DPL. I'm just not going to do it. All of this confirmation, all this movement, and he does it again. Like, all he's doing is not testing the DPL. So here's a guy that can fade away from the defensive protection line just as easily as he can penetrate and go past it. So he's pretty unbelievable. And, you know, some people want to be like Mike. I want to be like Kyrie. You know, I still do. I still think I can. I think I can. So anyway, we're going to close out. We're a little bit over time. I just want to say thank you, Tara. Love you. I'm very proud of your success. Couldn't be prouder. And, you know, just watching you continue this journey is just, you know, a joy to know that I was a small part of your life.
I love you too. Thank you.
All right. So hopefully we'll have her back. Parents, players, when you guys are watching this and you're trying to learn a little bit more about skill development, it doesn't matter. You know, you don't have to come to my program and work with myself or Nysear. We have Brad Pinchback. We have Akil Charles. We have lots of other trainers that are going to be coming on that are making a huge impact in kids' lives. And so in the description, you'll see their information. You can contact them. And the goal is for you to get to know your trainer. Get to know a person that you want to be a part of their life, or you want your son or daughter to be a part of this, you know, person's life, male or female. And this is a way that you get to basically, you know, like as they used to say in my day, sample the milk before you buy the cow. You know, you get to learn how, oh, you like that. You like that's good. Don't use it though. Don't use it. I don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to
know about that one, but okay.
Yeah, Peter is upset with me. I know it. I accept it. Peter, I'm sorry. I was wrong. But anyway, you know, you want to get to know like the philosophies of a trainer. You want to get to know how they think a certain way, why they think. And so, you know, like just looking at the game film and trying to talk about options and how we would prepare. So, you know, I talked to you guys about the DPL. There was a certain type of dribble that Kyrie was using, you know, every single time to be able to get where he was, you know, getting in terms of how he escaped and created space. And so you want to train in this fashion. And if you do, then, you know, at some point it will become a part of your subconscious and you'll be able to apply with, you know, a certain level of certainty and precision. So, Nysear, any last thoughts?
Keep on keeping on.
All right. That's what you got to do. Tara?
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. You guys stay on. Good night, everybody.